combat ISIS. We must securely accept the refugees whose lives these evil terrorists have destroyed. We have an incredibly rigorous screening process for when we accept refugees. Most of the refugees, as we learn, that we're accepting are mothers and children and old men. 2% of the refugees that we've accepted are of military age. The United States has a long, proud history of providing refuge to the world's most vulnerable, and it would be shameful for us now to turn our backs. Our senators here will address other measures we can take to keep us safe, like closing the loophole to keep guns out of the hands of terrorists. It's something that Senator Feinstein has pioneered in trying to, on this and other measures, to keep guns out of the hands of people that are like a simple background check. So it's outrageous that dangerous individuals who are known terrorists can waltz into a gun show and buy any weapon they want. Yet because of Republicans and NRA, terrorists can now buy the same kind of assault weapons used in a number of these deadly attacks. So it's time to act and close this wildly reckless loophole. Finally, yesterday at our briefing, we heard that one of the most urgent things we can do is to confirm Adam Zulin to lead our efforts to cut off funding to these terrorist organizations. This nomination has been languishing for more than 200 days, and he should be confirmed as soon as possible. Finally, the President's Chief of Staff has been in touch with us and has asked us to work with the administration, which we will do in a bipartisan way to make any and all security improvements necessary to continue to strengthen our existing visa waiver program. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Senator Reid. Our first obligation to America is to keep it safe. What happened in Paris, France is a reminder that we live in a dangerous world. We must make certain that everything we do is a step in the direction of assuring the American citizenry that we're doing everything in our power to avoid that occurrence in the United States and to stop the threat of terrorism from reaching our borders. What we've seen occur since then, sadly, has not been focused on that goal. Instead, when a tiding of Republican magpies came out in opposition to refugees, we saw this great move forward by the Republican Party to focus on our refugee system. Take a look at the refugee system. 70,000 a year are admitted from all over the world after up to 18 to 24 months of careful investigation. These are some of the most carefully vetted people who would ever enter the United States. 70,000 a year. Meanwhile, about 250,000 foreign visitors come to the United States each day. A third of them come from visa-free countries, visa waiver countries, where they can come to the United States by basically filling out a form. There's no fingerprint check before they get on an airplane. There are things that can be done and should be done to make sure that we are safer. Zachariah Moussaoui and Richard Reed, the tennis shoe bomber, were both people using the visa waiver program. It should be a wake-up call to us that if we're going to make America safe from terrorism, that should be one of the things we include as a highest priority, rather than dwelling on these refugees who come from war-torn parts of the world. Let me also add that I support completely what Senator Feinstein is doing when it comes to keeping guns, firearms, out of the hands of those who are suspected of being terrorists. To think that we have this loophole or gap in the law is unimaginable. This man who went into a concert hall in Paris used an automatic weapon to kill so many people. Wouldn't we want to make certain under our laws in the United States that kind of person would never, ever be able to buy a firearm? And there are other things which we should include in this as well, and one point that I will make. A foreign national from a visa waiver program country can buy a plane ticket online in 5 minutes and come to our country without submitting any biometric data like fingerprints. That's a change we should make. And by the way, a foreign national who enters the United States in the visa waiver program can legally purchase a handgun or assault rifle here. The law blocks visa holders from other countries from buying these guns, but not travelers from the 38 visa waiver countries. If we're going to get serious about keeping America safe, then we have to move beyond the conversation on refugees to the real vulnerabilities which we face.
Senator Schumer.
Thank you. And first I want to thank all of my colleagues here. They're doing a great job focusing on finding real solutions to the problems posed by the Paris attacks. All of us on this stage are focused on two critical goals. First, we have to keep terrorists out of the United States. Second, we need to keep guns and explosives out of the terrorists' hands. We need to focus our response where it matters, on individuals who are coming here to do us harm. We need to have tough screening for every refugee from Syria who is coming into the United States. But if a terrorist is going to try to come into this country, they're much more likely to use loopholes in the visa waiver program to do it, instead of waiting 2 years to go through the refugee screening process. Senators Feinstein, Murphy, Cantwell, Cardin, and others are looking at ways that we will tighten up these loopholes, ensure that passports can't be faked, and that terrorists who want to exploit the system can't slip through the cracks. They'll talk about that, more about that in a few minutes. We also need to crack down on the indefensible, dangerous, and frankly ridiculous loophole that allows people on a terrorist watch list to purchase guns and explosives. Senate Republicans have blocked our bill to close these loopholes for years. It was originally introduced by Senator Lautenberg, the late Senator Lautenberg. Senate Republicans are doing the bidding of their special interest friends in the NRA instead of keeping the country safe. And if you say, well, is this real? Over 2,000 people have attempted, over 2,000 people on the terrorist watch list have attempted to buy guns. 91% have gotten those guns. So I have a question for our Republican colleagues. Why should terrorists like the ones who perpetrated the heinous attacks in Paris be allowed to buy a gun? When Senate Republican leaders were asked about this bill earlier this week, a bill Senate Democrats have tried to pass for years, they shrugged their shoulders. It's not good enough. Our Republican colleagues need to start focusing on the real problems and dangers posed by ISIS. We urge them to move quickly, to work with us, to close loopholes in the visa waiver program, and keep guns out of the terrorists' hands.
Senator Feinstein.
Thank you very much, Leader, and thank you to my colleagues for being here and being part of a team that wants to put together two new policies for this country. As has been said, simply put, we must do more to protect the homeland against any possible terrorist attack like we saw in Paris, Beirut, and Egypt. And today, as has been said, we're talking about just two common sense steps that both political parties should agree on: strengthening the visa waiver program, ensuring that terrorists cannot buy firearms or explosives here in this country. Regarding the visa waiver program, this program is important to the business community and the tourism industry, and I have supported it. But I also believe it is the soft underbelly of our national security policies. 20 million people each year from 38 countries, including France and Belgium, use the visa waiver program. This means they don't need a traditional visa to travel here and therefore undergo less scrutiny. This means terrorists could exploit the program, could go from France to Syria, as 2,000 fighters have done, come back to France, use the visa waiver program, and without further scrutiny, come into the United States. Considering there are 45 million lost or stolen travel documents on the global black market today, many of them passports, it's clear we need to reform the program. The bill we're working on, all of us together, would make several changes. First, anyone who traveled to Syria or Iraq in the last 5 years cannot travel to the United States using the visa waiver program, period. They can still visit, but they need a traditional visa, a process that includes an in-person interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate. Second, The bill requires additional information from travelers before they arrive in the United States, to include fingerprints and photographs. At each step along the way, we want to know the individual traveling here, who is he or she, and who do they say they are. Third, the bill would require all individuals using the Visa Waiver Program to have a passport with an e-chip to store biometric data. This e-chip is more secure and harder to tamper with and contains an individual's biometric information. This is my passport. This is the logo, which says this is an electronic passport as well. When I travel, I will present this, which has my photo, such as it is, and has my photo, and I will show it to whomever, TSA, Homeland Security, whoever asks, and they can ring up this passport, which has my fingerprints and my actual photo. This prevents this passport from being tampered with. And these are now traditionally given out in the last 5 or so years. So anyone that gets a new passport, it will be with this ability. Countries in the Visa Waiver Program also must do more to enhance security. This means reporting lost and stolen passports to the United States and Interpol, as well as screening against Interpol's data. Sharing intelligence about foreign fighters, some of this is already happening, and sharing biometric information collected during the refugee or asylum process. Our bill will be a straightforward solution that can make a real difference. I want it to be a bipartisan bill as well. Senator Flake has agreed to be the lead Republican on the bill, and we look forward to working with him. We plan to introduce the bill after Thanksgiving. The second issue we are addressing is closing a gaping loophole that allows known or suspected terrorists to legally buy firearms or explosives in our country. In other words, they don't have to bring it with them. They can buy it once they get here. I introduced a bill in February, which, as Senator Schumer said, had been introduced by Senator Lautenberg to close this loophole. The bill is also introduced in the House by Republican Congressman Peter King. The bill would allow the Attorney General to block the sale of explosives or firearms if a purchaser is on a terrorist watch list and may use the firearm in connection with terrorism. I think this is a no-brainer. If you're too dangerous to board a plane, you're too dangerous to buy a gun. Language in this bill is identical to language supported by George Bush's Justice Department in 2007. So it's been around for a long time, and it's not a partisan issue. Many of us were surprised, as Chuck has said, to learn how often this loophole is exploited. From 2004 to 2014, over a 10-year period, the GAO, known as the Government Accountability Office, took a look at this, and they report that of the 2,233 people on the FBI's terrorist watch list who went through a background check to buy a weapon, of those, 2,043 passed that background check and likely purchased a firearm or explosives. Now that means that 91% of the people on the FBI's watch list who try to buy weapons in this country are in fact able to do so. To me, this is just a shocking statistic and one which might be addressed. So these are two common sense fixes that our team wants to go ahead with. And we very much hope that Republicans will agree, at least enough of them, to get it passed and get it signed by the President. They both can make a difference. Thank you very much, Leader.
All right, now.
I'll get it. Watch your head.
Sir Cantwell.
Somebody's.
Sir Cantwell.
Uh-oh. They're everywhere. The leader will fix it.
Here's the picture.